Hey folks, Brendan here from Blue Light. Now, have I got some really difficult and challenging questions for you to take a look at today? If you're in the police recruitment process, and especially if you're applying for North Yorkshire Police, then you're going to get questions like these. And I'm going to go through some of these questions in a moment. Where have they come from? Well, I've been doing some practicing with clients over the past few weeks who are preparing for North Yorkshire Police. And well, let's just say they've been ethically sourced. So I'm not saying that these are the questions, but they're the sort of questions that North Yorkshire Police do ask. Of course, they may change them. They may change everything that they do. And forces do this on a regular basis. They start off asking one type of set of questions, and then before you know it, you're doing presentations on diversity or the challenges that the particular force faces in the communities and what you're going to do to help support them. Yes, forces change the style of their final or in-force interview all the time. But anyway, I do like these questions because they are really challenging. And although North Yorkshire Police calls them strengths-based questions, they're not really strengths-based. If you Google strengths-based, it'll come up with things like, what is it you enjoy the most? What motivates you? What would your friends say your weaknesses are? What are your strongest values and why? You know, questions like that. These are different. I suppose, well, it depends how you define strengths-based. So anyway, let me run you through some of these and give you some ideas on how to approach them. Of course, if you want more information, then please do check the links below to my interview course. It's an online interview course where I provide you with huge amounts of information, guidance and support, structures, templates on how to answer just about every question you could ever get asked by any force. So a huge success rate as well, such a high success rate that if you do all the work I've asked you to do and you still fail your final interview, I'll give you a refund. That's my promise to you. I'm all in with this. I'm all in with this whole process with you. If you fail, I'll give you a refund. Anyway, let's take a look at some of these questions. So the first one, why do you want to be a police officer and why North Yorkshire Police? These are fairly standard questions, but my clients recently have been giving me answers that have just been about 30 seconds long and have basically said, I want to work here and I live here. And they've not really given me much about why they actually want to be a police officer or why the particular force that you're applying to. So in my online course, I talk about developing a timeline from your initial inspiration for wanting to join the police and all the different things that have happened and all the steps you've taken to develop that inspiration to the point where you're in front of them for the interview. Similarly, for the force, just living there isn't enough. What is it that's inspiring you about the force that you want to apply to? What is it that's different about this force compared to other forces? For North Yorkshire Police, I'd focus very much on the family feel, because it's a small force, people will know each other, you'll feel more supported, you won't feel like such a number. As I know in some of the bigger forces, I've experienced this myself, you can feel like you're just a number and you're not as connected and you don't feel like you're part of the family as much as in smaller forces. And I can say that with conviction because I've been in 3 police forces, ranging from 540 or so in Bermuda to about, I think it was about 1,600 in Cheshire, to Greater Manchester Police, where at one point they had over 8,000 officers. I know they've only got 6,000 plus now, but there was a time when we had 8,000 there. So that's a question that really needs developing. And the reason why you need to give them a detailed answer is because, let's see, we've got about 7 questions here. It's a 45-minute long interview. Do the math. Do the math. That's about 5 minutes per answer. Or if there's a bit of messing around at the beginning and the end, 4.5 minutes per answer. And with North Yorkshire Police, they only ask the question once. They won't rephrase it for you. They won't reframe it for you. They won't explain it for you. You can ask them to repeat the question. They'll repeat the actual question itself, but they won't explain it in any more detail if you don't quite understand what they're asking. And they won't probe. A lot of forces do this. They won't actually probe what you say. So if you just give a very short 30-second answer, they'll just accept that as being your answer, and that's it. So we've got to have really detailed, structured approach to all of these answers. I'll go through a couple of them for you. What does exceptional community service look like? I would find an example in the force that you're applying. for, and I would break that down by the various skills and values demonstrated by the officer concerned. So for North Yorkshire Police, we were talking about maybe looking at the exploits of officers in York City, or maybe in Scarborough, which is a challenging area for North Yorkshire Police. Moving into some of the questions, how will you manage working under pressure or to your limits? That's an interesting one. So what happens when you actually hit that pressure point in your working life? I know what happens to me. I just get a bit discombobulated and I can't really focus. And then I have to start thinking, right, what's really, really important? What do I need to do now? What's important and urgent? So start thinking about how to actually prioritize what I'm doing to take that pressure off, So what's the most important and urgent thing is out of the way. Everything else isn't quite so worrying, So, but it's up to you, you see. There's no right or wrong answer here. This is how you manage to work under pressure. And you might want to also talk about how you're going to mitigate some of those issues once you're in the constabulary. And this links in with the next question. When work might overload you, how are you going to look after your physical and mental well-being? What a question that is. Moving into how would you work collaboratively with other organisations? For my clients, I talk about developing the emotional bank account. And shall I tell you about that? I'll tell you about it now. So the emotional bank account is with partner organisations, especially if you're in a neighbourhood role, you invest in supporting them before they need to ask you for any help. And the same goes with internally within the police service as well. So I would look, if I could, to see what I could do to help support other departments within the police service. And then when it comes to me needing help from them, I've already built up my account. The emotional bank account is in credit. So they're going to be far more willing to want to give me help and support than if I just went to ask for that help, but I've not provided any help or support for them beforehand. So we are giving help and support without people needing to ask. We're trying to identify the issues and problems that they have, and then we're going to invest in that community bank account, and so we can draw from it one day if we need to. A lot more to it than that. This is something I really geek out on because I've spoken at conferences on this. I've worked with the European Union on these sort of issues. So I could geek out on this for about an hour or more, a whole day. But I want to make sure this video is no longer than 10 minutes long. So how would you know if the outcome you've achieved is the right one? This is about asking questions and the right sort of questions of those people who you've been working with. How do you go about managing complexity? Are you more or less productive? No right answer there, and there's no wrong answer. For me, I love complexity. I love it. The messier, the more complex, the better. My nickname all those years ago for my chief inspector was Inspector Chaos. He called me Inspector Chaos because I was really happy in chaotic situations. I could make sense out of them and try to apply solutions that were equally as messy at times. And I loved it. I was quite happy. In the world of working in complex situations like mental health, drug addiction, drug supply, tipping point communities that are really struggling, or families that are really struggling for a variety of reasons, that cross borders beyond just crime, mental health, drug and alcohol addiction, employment, obesity, life expectancy, educational attainment, and all of those things that link in with the research around adverse childhood experiences. Chaotic, wicked problems, they're my favourites. Or it may be that you're very process and systems driven, in which case you don't manage complexity very well. But what we're looking for is how you mitigate against that. So how I mitigate against the fact that I hated lists, I didn't really do processes, and I was very, very reluctant to adopt any systems, was I spoke with my chief inspector about it, and I got a sergeant who was super systems and process focused, and she was just awesome at keeping me in line. So I kind of mitigated against that thing about me that is just not very good at managing systems and processes and lists and things like that, by having someone who was really good at that. And you could do the same thing at constable level, or you might do something very similar in your life. So anyway, no right or wrong answer to that. So there you go, folks. Strengths-based questions, courtesy of North Yorkshire Police. If you're part of my interview course, please do jump onto the interview Facebook group and also onto the actual course itself, where I go into a lot more detail on these questions to provide you with far more of a structured approach that's going to enable you to absolutely nail them on the day. That's what we're about, folks. We're about supporting you to ensure that you deliver on a day, that you do more than just pass, that you pass with an awesome mark to make sure that you are going to be on the next intake. So let me know when you are on the next intake. Always let me know about your successes. I hear about your successes every day, and I love to hear about successful clients, especially in the Facebook groups. So links below to the Facebook groups, both for those people who are hoping to be police officers and also the serving officers cadre for police officers who are interested in their own development, career development. So there's over 3,000 people in that group now after just 3 months. That's incredible, isn't it? The recruit group's got over 16,000 members, which that's taken 4 years to build up, but still incredible. All right, folks, well, listen, I hope you enjoyed this video and got something out of it. I shall see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.